Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This time we're talking about domain format. I want this to be a concise but comprehensive starting place for anyone looking to venture into this fan-made format. So if you're a fan of alternative ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh, then let's get started. First up, what is domain format? Why should you care? Well, domain has quite a few distinct rules which makes it feel very different from something like Genesis, which feels quite similar to normal advanced format. Domain is a different beast altogether because the goal here is different. Rather than trying to curate a lightning-fast competitive card game, regardless of what alternate rules state that may entail, Domain focuses on slowing down the game and having fun with some friends. And I do mean friends with an S. You see, the biggest aspect to this format is that it's designed with 4 players in mind rather than the normal 2. That in and of itself changes how games play out drastically. Just think, in a game of Advanced we have 8,000 life to chew through, and that's not hard for any modern deck to do in a turn with a dominant board state. But in a 4-player format, that means that to OTK the entire board, an individual would have to slap down 24,000 damage, which is effectively impossible outside of decks dedicated to doing a labyrinthine combo. That's not the only difference, though. In order to slow down the game and give everyone time to play, we're also on a 60-card singleton deck. This has the obvious effect of making decks less consistent since we probably don't have 30 single quote-unquote one-card starters that let us establish a crazy board, but it also has some cool side effects. Decks are built with recursion in mind rather than just end board strength, which further serves to lengthen the game, and also it's just generally easier to get your hands on the cards for a domain deck. 1 Elf Note Lucina is a lot cheaper than 3, meaning the barrier to entry is smaller. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest reasons why Commander, Magic's analog to Domain, is the most popular format in that game, and has so many dedicated players that never even touch the other formats. It's easier to sell friends on a $50 deck to play a fun casual format than to drop $150 and spend a month getting destroyed to learn a competitive one. Lastly, for our big game-changing rules, we have the Deckmaster. Each deck includes 1 monster card chosen from any main deck or extra deck monster, and which determines what you can play in your deck. This principle is what the format is named after, and your Deckmaster's domain is determined by its type, attribute, archetype, and any types, attributes, or archetypes mentioned in its text box. Let's look at my first Deckmaster for an example. Ragnarika the Evil Seed is a Ragnarika card, so it automatically includes the archetype as playable cards. Furthermore, it's Earth, so we have all Earth monsters in our domain, and a plant, so we get all plants. Most interestingly, it specifically mentions an insect, plant, or reptile monster in its alternative summoning condition, which means those are all included as well. Some people will choose a Deckmaster specifically to have as wide of a domain as possible, such as Invoked Elysium, which gives access to all monsters by virtue of listing every attribute. But this comes with a major drawback. You see, the Deckmaster isn't just for determining your domain. It's a playable card that you always have access to, similar to an extra deck monster. The difference here is that any inherent summon condition works for your Deckmaster. Looking at Rika again, we can just normal summon it since it's a level 1 monster, but we can also summon with its first effect because it's an inherent summon. This also works if you wanted to run like a Kashtira Fenrir, but notably summoning conditions and other hand-based effects that start a chain do not work from the Deckmaster zone. Sorry, Habakiri. Though picking a ritual isn't a bad choice, since you can still summon it as if it were in your hand using a ritual spell, or I guess a megalith monster if that's your thing. And if interrupted, you can always try again later, since at any point that the Deckmaster switches zones, you can then choose to put it back in the DMZ instead for easy access later. Just be aware that you lose 500 life for each time you summon it past the first. It's not a super steep cost, but it's a cost nonetheless. Putting it all together, your domain deck may look something like this. 60 individual cards that fit your Deckmaster's domain, and hey, wait, what are those cards at the bottom doing here? Well, there's no limitation on spells and traps because they don't have a type or attribute, so you could play like Mimigul Maker in your Shadow deck if you want. Couple that with a 0-card ban list, and it gives us access to some incredible banned power cards like Last Will and Painful Choice. While these cards read broken, and make no mistake, they are, they don't really cause a problem here for a few reasons. One, they're singleton and unsearchable, but there's also my favorite part of the format in general: politics. You see, when there's more than one opponent, there's opportunities for alliances, treaties, truces. Effectively, the most important rule isn't a rule at all. You will play differently if you want to survive. While in Advanced or really any other format of Yu-Gi-Oh!, overwhelming force is the best policy, in Domain it's basically impossible to overwhelm 3 people, which means the tactic of choice becomes deterrence. Don't attack me and I won't attack you. Look at my board, I'm not doing anything, I'm not a threat. Why would you destroy that card? It's helping us both. These are common utterances and make the game much more strategic. If you just fire off a Painful Choice turn 1 and get 3 engines online, all of a sudden you're public enemy number 1, and you have the full 18 cards between your 3 opponents dedicated to dragging you back in line and possibly neutralizing you. That's the same reason why my deck here has a crazy 1 card out of the Deckmaster Zone combo that can establish a terrifying board turn 1, but I'm not going to do that in most games because it just paints a giant target on my forehead for the rest of the game. Similarly, yeah, sure, you could play a stun deck, but unless you lock out everyone out of the game at the same time in 1 turn, then suddenly any Heavy Storm, any Harpy's Feather Duster, any MST leads to a dog pile that'll have you on the sidelines watching the actual fun game play out. It's a self-regulating format that leads to fun, interactive games while simultaneously giving you the opportunity to play with fun, banned power cards. Lastly, we have a few other minor rules you should know before you get building. Since Yu-Gi-Oh! Is built to be one-on-one, there had to be some rulings based on the way certain cards are worded. For example, something like Heavy Storm that says destroy all spell and trap cards on the field, just apply the card as worded and boom, all 4 players lose everything. But for something like Harpy's Feather Duster, it says destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Well, you have 3 opponents, and the card is worded to interact with 1 opponent, so that's what it does. Anytime a card says your opponent, you have to target someone when you activate it, and its effects apply to that player on resolution. Painful Choice here says your opponent, so you pick someone to make your piles. Giant Trap Hole suddenly looks more appealing when it destroys all monsters on all fields, etc. If something has a condition to be met before you can use it, but only affects 1 player, then you have to target a player who triggered the condition. Looking at Triple Tack here, if 1 person has used a monster effect on your turn, you can always draw the 2. But if you want to hand rip, you have to target the player who activated talents in the first place. You can't hand rip Timmy if Spike's the one that hand trapped you. Lastly, for weird rulings, each, both, and neither all just become all players, so these cards consequently gain or lose value, which gives you an excuse to play some weird stuff. The player going first can draw on turn 1, because that's only fair, otherwise they're at a major disadvantage of 3 cards rather than 1, and the player going last gets the first battle phase once everyone's already established, so that you can't just, knock out player 4 halfway through the first turn cycle. Now, I'm not going to become a React channel, but I don't have a good setup for recording actual footage, so we're going to use some footage of this game as an example. Note that if you want to watch this whole thing, I have it linked in the description, and you should. It's a fun match, and I'm not showing the whole thing here. Our first player here is playing a fun deck archetype that shows up in multiplayer formats like this, Group Hug. Group Hug takes politics to the extreme by benefiting everyone at the table to try and keep them off your back while you enact your game plan, in this case making a giant Slifer. Already they're using cards that just don't see play elsewhere, like 2-for-1 team as a Deckmaster. This requires everyone to talk and coordinate if they want to benefit from the card, or conversely gives the opportunity to ruin it for everyone and get a target on your back. They happen to draw into banned card, Graceful Charity, and fire it off with the goodwill that they've earned from giving the other players card draws, and, just generally not making a terribly impressive board in this deck. Player 2 is on the most traditional combo-style game plan with Crystal Beasts, but still doesn't go completely crazy here since they can't attack anyways. Player 3 fires off Painful Choice and goes absolutely nuts on a Paleo Runic Frog combo to immediately become public enemy number 1 and eat a Called by the Grave for the trouble. Player 4 tries to go ham and utilize the first battle phase, but trying to combo off into 3 established boards is nigh impossible and ends with a relatively unimpressive Orchest board. You can see immediately that this isn't classic combo-y Yu-Gi-Oh! End boards. We're on some weak monsters, ways to generate value, and the occasional piece of disruption. Things don't go crazy until the second turn cycle where everyone has a battle phase. That's really the point I want to get across here. This feels and plays very different from what you're used to, but still uses all of your favorite cards and archetypes. It's a super fun, fresh way to play the game we love, in a way that is less competitive, since only 1 in 4 people can win. You can just relax and enjoy the ride. I've recently gotten really into Domain and have been having a great time and wanted to share and spread awareness. If this all sounds like something you'd be interested in, the first thing I would recommend is joining the Discord, where they link to the rules document in case you have any questions. But also, guys, it's just like so active with people always looking for a game. When I joined, I fully assumed it'd be dead with like 200 or 300 members, but it's thousands strong and you can always find a game to jump into. To join, you can go to domainformat.com, linked in the description, or just Google Yu-Gi-Oh! Domain Format and it pops right up. The site even tracks OTS stores that host domain events, which I'm currently in the process of convincing enough people at my local store to do. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I hope this helped you understand and maybe even got you excited to try the format out, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.